In January, we did a segment about a focus group that pollster and researcher Frank Luntz did with Trumpists about their media consumption and how they end up believing things about the election. And what we found out was not particularly surprising. A lot of Fox News, a lot of Newsmax, a lot of OAN. It was very eye-opening. Frank Luntz did another great focus group a few days ago with anti-vaccine Trumpists. These are Trumpists who are hesitant to get the coronavirus vaccine. And we're going to look at some clips here. But the big takeaway is that our suspicions about anti-vaccine Republicans and Trumpists appear to basically be correct, which is that a full year of disinformation from Trump, downplaying the pandemic, downplaying its severity, that's a big part of why Trumpists and Republicans now, in great proportion, do not plan to get the coronavirus vaccine. So let's get right into it with the first clip, then we'll talk about it.
When I say COVID-19 vaccine, Adam, what do you think of first?
A miracle, albeit suspicious.
Lauren.
Unsure. Too many questions.
Patrick.
Rushed.
Doug from California.
Experimental.
Aaron.
Impressive, but hesitant.
Marie.
Scary, not knowing the long-term side effects.
Chad.
Long-term side effects unknown.
Matthew.
Experimental and unknown how it will affect long-term.
David from Texas.
Long-term side effects.
Diane from Ohio.
Unproven.
Lisa.
Efficacy unknown.
So these responses about the vaccine range from the suspicious to the completely debunked talking points. For example, unproven and efficacy unknown, for example. It's quite the opposite. The phase 3 trials of these vaccines prove that these are some of the most effective vaccines ever developed by humans or by anybody. I don't know how many vaccines have been developed by animals, but these are some of the most successful vaccines and effective ones ever developed. Huge efficacy at preventing symptomatic illness, period, and almost perfect at preventing serious illness. We know that. That's not an unknown quantity. They just don't know. Rushed. We've gone over this many times. The mRNA platform under development for decades, specifically so that when you have a need for a specific vaccine, it's a faster process. It wasn't rushed. This is how long it takes to develop mRNA vaccines. Possible long-term side effects. You can always say that about any vaccine at any time. The polio vaccine was developed in 1955. That's 66 years ago. One could say, how do we know side effects don't start at the 67-year mark? What we know about vaccines and how they work, this idea of some future effect is not a concern based on all of the best medical science. So then they get into, where do these ideas come from? It's remarkable, but it's also pretty predictable.
Well, Frank, can I just say that it's all very logical. Like, I look at this logically. There's no, craziness of because I think one way politically that I can't look at logic and reason. And I think what you said very kind of cavalierly about, so what that the pharmaceuticals let the results out 5 days after the election. And to me, that's a big so what. It makes you doubt a little bit of the motives and the politicization of science. So if you really want us to trust the science, I think politics has to be taken out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, if we could be told that by being vaccinated, things would get back to normal again.
And they don't even say
and that happened, but that's not happening.
No.
Things
still wear masks.
Down.
Yep.
Right.
Still masks. Don't get together with family.
Biden said the other night, oh, you could have a small gathering by 4th of July. Small gathering, maybe.
Maybe if we behave.
Yeah,
if we
4
behave.
people and a few hot dogs. I mean, that's to me, if everyone's getting vaccinated, we got to move on.
And what you just saw was what happens when politics gets put in the middle of this. It's just got to come out somehow. I think that is going to be key to all of this, that it
And
just.
ask yourself who put the politics there? Which
But the
side had a
media.
benefit to having politics introduced to this? And now they just keep it going. It's not going to be taken out.
Now, that last comment is interesting. Who had an interest in injecting politics into this? One of the focus group participants said. The injection of politics for personal benefit on this pandemic in the United States was Trump and Republicans. Democrats had no interest in this case in injecting politics. Democrats just wanted to say, let's do what the doctors say. Let's do what the public health experts say. Trump calculated, if I downplay this, if I disagree with the public health experts, it'll go away, and that's best for me. It's better for me politically not to take this seriously, at least publicly. And if it hadn't been that serious, Donald Trump would have been easily reelected. I've said that before. If Trump handled the virus well, he also would have been reelected. But the global handling of the virus actually tells us that the best political strategy is the same as the best medical strategy. You step aside and you listen to doctors. New Zealand did it. Australia did it. Taiwan did it. Rwanda did it. There's other countries as well. The leaders Paul Kagame in Rwanda didn't need to do well. That's a different situation. But you look at New Zealand and other places. When they did well with the virus, they did well politically. And the best way to deal well with the virus was just to do what the doctors said. But these folks believe that it's Democrats who injected politics. Trump made a political call, not a medical call, to say 15 cases will soon be 0. He privately knew how much more serious it was, but he continued to downplay it publicly. It was Trump who initially injected politics. Let's continue.
It's not.
Right.
Nope.
The fear mongering started at the beginning and it's never ended.
Right.
And if
think
there was a
I'm
fact
gonna-
a point that I want to see the data point that says when we reach herd immunity and what
Yeah.
percentage, is there a percentage of the population that could be vaccinated and then we're herd immunity? Because I
Well,
haven't
and
heard that.
the minute they tell you that, the goalposts will move again, right? Because it was how many days until we're done and we can take off our masks, and 3 weeks until if we all do this, then it'll be over. And we're tired of that. They set it up and then it moves. And so how do you trust that if we all get to vaccination level, we're going to be done with this?
And don't forget, the WHO changed the definition of herd immunity from natural to vaccinated. So talk about politicizing science.
Fearmongering. Nearly 600,000 dead officially, probably 750,000 dead if you include unreported or unofficial COVID deaths. What's funny about saying we don't trust anything now because we were told this would be over in 3 weeks, those were the political statements Trump made in 2020. Think about the lack of logic there. They don't trust Biden now. They don't trust the vaccine now. They don't trust the government now. Because Trump said it'll be over by Easter of 2020, when obviously it wasn't going to be over by Easter of 2020. They don't seem to realize that their current mistrust of Biden, who is being honest now about here's what's going well, but it could get worse. And if this isn't going so well, I'm going to tell you, that distrust of Biden is based on things Trump told them that were wrong. Now, this next clip is very interesting. I've guessed that even anti-vaccine Trumpists, once they see there are going to be businesses that say we will require a vaccine, maybe to fly with us, maybe to go to a concert that we organize, whatever. That's going to get more people wanting the vaccine. A bunch of the Trumpists in the focus group do say travel requirements, for example, would push me to get a vaccine. Not all of them, but some. Take a look.
I'm not going to let you board a plane without having a passport, a digital passport that says that you got the COVID-19 vaccine. If that were the case, how many of you on this group, how many of you would get the vaccine? If you knew that you could not get on a plane, okay, so Debbie would.
I would delay it as long as possible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rush to do it. I would change my travel plans.
Yeah.
Okay, but Lauren, you would do it.
I love to travel. I've been sitting, we haven't traveled. I'm used to going away 3-4 times a year. So if this is the only way I could go away, I'm going to have to take the chance.
Jen, you would get the vaccine. Jen from Iowa, you get the vaccine if it meant that you could travel by flight.
I think eventually I would cave and I would get the vaccine, even though like my husband and I both survived COVID last month. He almost died, but I still think that at some point I might be forced to do it. And I would rather it be my choice than it be forced upon me by other entities.
Debbie, if it meant you not being able to fly or you being able to fly, you would get the vaccine.
I would get the vaccine. We love to travel and we love to take cruises. And so I would get it to travel.
So as you can see, some of them say, no, even to travel, I'm not getting a vaccine. But some of them say, no, I really like to travel. I'd probably get vaccinated if I needed to. A reluctant vaccinated person is still vaccinated. And that's still, I think, the way the focus should remain. One other moment that's interesting, Frank Luntz brought in Dr. Tom Frieden, who's a former CDC director. And Tom Frieden gave the focus group participants 5 facts about vaccines. It actually changed a lot of minds.
Dr. Frieden, I'm going to go to you now because Doug says he wants facts. Let's go. Give him 4 or 5 facts and let's see if you can move them right now.
1, if you get infected with the virus, it will go all over your body and stay there for at least a week and be much more likely to cause you long-term problems than the vaccine. 2, if you get the vaccine, it will prime your immune system, but then the vaccine is gone. It will not be with you anymore. 3, more than 95% of the doctors who've been offered this vaccine have gotten it as soon as they can. 4, the more we vaccinate, the faster we can get back to growing our economy and getting jobs. And 5, if people get vaccinated, we're going to save at least 100,000 lives of Americans who would otherwise be killed by COVID.
Okay, I want a show of hands. How many of you would say that those 5 facts are impactful to you? Raise your hands if they're impactful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of you.
So most people raised their hands there. So the upside is not all is lost. Vaccination is continuing to accelerate. We are now officially averaging 2.5 million doses per day, hopefully going to 3. We'll have a full report on that tomorrow. But enough of these folks are suffering the effects of such aggressive disinformation and confusion and partisanship that mathematically we're probably still up against a pretty difficult situation in terms of getting to herd immunity on a national level. In areas with less vaccine hesitancy, it does seem like herd immunity is going to be achievable. But we're going to have to hope that travel restrictions or whatever do push more of these folks to ultimately get the vaccine. We'll have more on this on the David Pakman Show Instagram. Find us there at David Pakman Show. You may not have known this, but when you see me sitting here on the show, I am often wearing shirts by a company called Teddy Stratford. I asked them to be a sponsor because they are by far my favorite shirts that I own. With almost all other slim fit button-up shirts I've worn, you get this annoying stretched out gap in the chest where the buttons are, which does not look good. But what makes Teddy Stratford shirts unique is this patented zipper that's hidden underneath the buttons, which actually prevents the chest from looking weird and stretched out like that. It looks really good. And just all around, they cut the entire shirt in a specific way that makes your upper body look a lot better. It's just a much nicer and more stylish fit than you get from other shirts. And they hand make everything with 100% Egyptian cotton and flat felled seams, which means it's going to be a lot more durable than other shirts and last a lot longer, which I really love. Go check them out at davidpakman.com/Teddy. The link is down below and they'll give you 15% off your first order if you use the coupon code Pakman at checkout.